I'm going to put the post that I'm going to be discussing in the description. And this, to be clear, is just one of the mental kind of things that needs to be learned and worked on in bodybuilding. I do believe there are so many that you go through and experience that need addressing, but I'm going to take the time to talk about just this one that was brought up about this post. All right, so I want to talk about this post that Flex Lewis put up, where he's basically talking about, well, whatever. I'll let you see the post. But anyways, I want to talk about it because I think it is, as he alluded to, one of the harder things in bodybuilding, if not the hardest, is the mental game. And I think it's one of the least talked about, and therefore, like, there's not as much instruction on how to do better at it and stuff like that. And this post, at face value, doesn't seem that difficult. It's like, okay, I can eat 800 grams carbs, or I can eat 80 grams carbs. But the reality of it is, when you put some context around it, is you're not talking about eating 800 grams carbs post-show and your appetite's super high and you could eat forever and ever and ever. And you're also not talking about eating 80 grams carbs, after you've been in a long off season and you have no appetite and you're totally, fine to eat low food. You're talking about these in the situation of you're eating 800 grams carbs for months on end when your appetite has been non-existent for a long period of time. You're probably pushing your heaviest and you're having to eat meals every couple hours when you're not hungry. And a lot of times you're having to wake up very early in the morning to get that first meal going. And the last thing you want to think about is eating food. Honestly, it's nice to come to the time when you get to have an off meal, because you can get a lot lower volume food. Let's say it's a burger and fries, and a lot higher calories. And it gets difficult to want to push all that clean food. It's a lot easier to just say, oh, I'll just match those calories with dirty food. But then, that's when your physique can start to, go in the wrong direction. And mentally doing that for months on end, most of the year, that's why people say the off season is a lot harder, is because of that. And it's super challenging. People think, oh, I love food, I love to eat. It's like, yeah, try eating 7,000 calories of chicken and rice and do it for months. And and you're just constantly tired. And so if you're not sleeping, you're eating. And if you're trying to almost get your training in as soon as you can so you can get back home to eat another meal. But I digress. And then, on the flip side, it's the prep situation. When you're eating those 80 grams carbs, you're already depleted. You've already been dieting for a long time. Your energy is super low. You're probably at your lowest body fat. Cardio is at its highest. And so you're starving when you're eating those. You're pushing those meals as far as you can apart throughout the day to, save the food towards the end of the day so then you can sleep. When you eat each of those meals, they do absolutely nothing for your appetite and feeling full. And mentally, you're doing that for, another 6 to 8 weeks, kind of, once the food gets that low. And so mentally, that's very challenging too. Not only is it extremely demanding physically, and then so those two extremes take a special kind of person to be able to do those two things. And I think the word discipline in those two situations doesn't even do it justice, because I think to me, discipline is like, oh, like I'm a little tired today, like, but I got to go to work. And so I go to work. But to do those things, to willingly, put yourself through those things and stick to those things, I think it goes way beyond discipline. I think there needs to be another word to describe those. And then not only, does it take, and I'm not talking just about myself, like anyone who does this, I think it takes, you have to be a little different or a little off in the head, something to be able to do that stuff and do it consistently and do it well. Not only, I think a lot of times you can find someone who is either a really good dieter or someone who's really good in the off season, but to be able to find someone who can do both of those extremely well and at a high level is hard. And then not only is it just those two extremes, it's being able to make that transition too. So, coming out of a show and then shifting your mindset from this, I'm starving, I'm pushing for condition. Now you need to shift your focus on, okay, we're growing, we're building, and we're going to prepare ourselves to start pushing food. And, it isn't just this flip of the switch where you get out the show, okay, then we just start smashing food. You have to do the rebound correctly, and you have to kind of let things adjust accordingly. And that takes a lot of patience and discipline. And so being able to make those transitions too, same thing, going from an off season. And I feel like going from an off season into the early part of a prep is like the easiest phase, as food's coming down and, everything. But, yeah. And I think that just those mental pieces of bodybuilding, along with those physical demands that you have to kind of carry out on a regular basis, I think is very overlooked, not talked about enough. And there isn't a lot of kind of, this is what you should do, this is how you should think about it, these are some tricks to help you be able to manage those periods. Like, I think people would just expect you, oh no, there's the plan, like stick to it. And a lot of it has to do with like the things going on in your head that you're having to manage, whether it's, about your physique or, just like shortcuts that you want to take, and just different, not understanding the reasons for things and thinking you have it all figured out. And so you obviously need a coach. That's going to be the number one thing to kind of give you that guidance. But I think even too, coaches can get frustrated and annoyed because people just don't get it. And it's like, it takes a lot of mental kind of training and instruction. And I don't think a lot of them are willing to kind of give that. I think it's one of these things that I think definitely as an athlete, you develop more of it as you do this longer and longer and longer, just through like trial and error and making certain mistakes. But if early on in kind of, younger athletes' careers, we can kind of train them on this mindset stuff that they're going to have to encounter, I feel like they could better, maybe avoid some of those mistakes. Some of them you're going to have to do and learn, but to just, have more success early on with the mental aspect of bodybuilding. Because I really do think that, like, over the long term, like, that is the thing that is keeping people from going the duration, is they just don't have the mindset tools to kind of navigate this marathon of a sport and the different phases, and to excel at a high level at all the different phases. Typically they'll get stuck in, one pigeonhole, oh, I'm going to stay shredded for social media, or, oh, I'm going to perma bulk and I'm never big enough, and kind of being able to embrace all the different phases and then, continue to grow mentally on how to deal with different challenges and really it's just the challenges have less of an impact on you and won't be as much of a struggle. You're going to still encounter them, but you're going to notice, oh, this has happened in the past, and this is what I was thinking, and then this is the reality, and this is what I need to do. We need a lot more of those kind of tangible examples to kind of let people see how they should go about these mental challenges. And I really think it's an area that needs more attention and more leveling up. I find it super fascinating, and that's why I think about it a lot. I talk about it a lot. I have had a lot of mental challenges myself with bodybuilding, and have overcome a lot of them, and have got guidance from a lot of people. on many of them, but it's definitely the biggest differentiator, I think, in people that are successful at this and can do it for a long period of time.